Hello, and welcome back to Muse. I am your host, Dámaris, artist and multi-passionate or multi-potentialite, a new word for what I call myself, creator. And I'm here sharing about personal growth and creativity and how they intersect to help us create with more intention. And I use the word multi-potentialite today because I heard other creative people call themselves that as well. And if multi-passionate doesn't really resonate with you, I wanted to use another term that maybe would resonate with you all as someone who has many interests, many desires, and sees potential in many different aspects of your life and like to pursue different areas at once, which I am one of those people. I pursue a lot of different projects and a lot of different facets of my life all in one time. And I just want to encourage you out there, and what I feel this podcast is about is to continually be encouraging and making an impact on those people that are creative, that are artists, and maybe don't fit into one niche or one specific topic or interest, or you have many interests in many areas that you want to be pursuing at one time, and it is possible. You just have to find ways that work for you and that help you to align yourself and all your interests in a way that continues you to move forward in your projects and in your work. And I'll share a little bit more about that as we continue on this episode, but I just wanted to preface with that and why I kind of used a different word today. We are already in mid-June. Where has the time gone? That is just wild to me that we've already hit mid-month. Life is good and time's just flying, and that's the way it is right now, you know? That's the vibe of June, I guess, or at least for this year. That's the energy. And this month has already been so full of new desires and movement for me personally in my life. I don't know if it has to do with it being like summer energy and we're kind of coming into that shifting. It's warm, it's sunny, we're getting vitamin D, just enjoying the outdoors more, and things are just feeling good. People are happy, even interactions have changed and shifted. It's just good vibes all around. And maybe with that comes more movements, more desires, more things come up, which I think is the best time to talk about the topic for today, which is celebration, owning your progress, becoming your own hype man, hype team even, breaking the cycle of waiting for external permission. And it's just such a nice, uplifting topic. And I feel like this month has all been, like I mentioned in the last two episodes, very much aligned with where I'm feeling I am at this time personally in my own life and in my own work, and the things that I'm not just working through, but have been contemplating. So it just feels more alive and ignited. And yeah, I'm just excited to share what I'm chatting about, and have been so excited to share what I'm chatting about this month. I think I'm going to start with asking a question. How often do you create something and then immediately downplay it? I did this last week, or actually last week or the week before. My manager, I have a full-time job. My manager at work asked if she could let other staff know about about this podcast in our morning meeting that we have every week. It took me by surprise. I wasn't expecting the conversation to lead in that direction, and when she said that, I just immediately felt so shy, and I didn't want to brag or seem so in your face about my podcast and to tell everyone at work that like Dámaris has a podcast. Just, I don't know, it just was sounded so embarrassing. Thinking back now, I was like, why the heck did I react that way? And it just made me contemplate a little bit more about why that is my initial reaction when people I know, I guess, in real life know or talk to me or tell me about them listening to the podcast or telling me they're going to listen to the podcast, or if it's in person, it I just get so embarrassed sometimes, and I guess really it depends on who it is, but I get shy and embarrassed, and I think even as a young person, and maybe a lot of us have felt this, that we're taught to be humble, to not brag or be a show off. I feel like even as kids, you're told like you don't be a show off, like, or you quickly learn to move on past that topic and not dwell on the things that you're doing, or to bring attention to the things that you're doing that in reality are reasons to be proud, to be and stand firm on the things that you're doing, because that's amazing. And that whole embarrassment and feeling that I had really had nothing to do with other people knowing about the podcast. I reflected and was like, okay, it's not about them knowing. It just has to do with my own insecurities of being seen, and that whole like fear of being seen and perceived in a certain way, which again has nothing to do really with other people, and it's definitely something that I cannot control. But I think in the moment when I was kind of put on the spot, I really wasn't prepared to acknowledge that. And after the fact, I was like, why is that not a cool thing to brag about, me having a podcast? I talk about it here that I'm like so proud and I'm so happy and excited to have this platform and to share my thoughts and how much I've grown and blah, 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 blah. Yet in real life, somebody's like, yeah, let me hype you up. Let me, talk about this thing that you're doing that's so cool. And immediately I'm like, what? Like, I don't, maybe not. Like, sure. And I just get so in my own head about it, which is so dumb. And not dumb, because it's not dumb. It's real. It's a thing that I'm learning and I'm having to face and acknowledge about myself, but it's just hard to experience and to share. If you've been in that place, it's such a weird cringe, like, I don't know. But it's not that I'm not proud or that I'm not excited or that I don't want to share. And I feel like if it was me doing it and I could tell people like, yeah, I have a podcast and I'm doing this and I'm doing, these are all my projects, and I'm totally cool at like doing that. I think it's when someone else is doing it that's like, I don't know, maybe it has to do with like being put on the spot or in the center of attention, and that just like scares me for some reason. I have no idea. But we're working on it, right? Like, we're working on it. This is why we're here. This is why we're talking about these things, because they're real. And reflecting, I'm like, why did I downplay my achievements? Why did I not want to share that I'm working on these really cool things that I'm like proud of? Because if you think about it, if you were to be talking about your friends, you have a close friend, they're creating a podcast or they're doing this amazing work, you want to share that your friend is doing such cool stuff. Like that, I know I'm like that, and I love to be like, oh yeah, so and so, like they do this, like they're creative, they do this kind of stuff. But when it comes to me, it's scary. But if it was my friend, I would 100% do it. It doesn't matter who it is, like I'm going to share that they're doing this cool thing. So I need to be my own friend, is really the realization there. It's like, I need to be my own friend. And if somebody else is trying to acknowledge my achievements and is trying to share and be excited and happy that I'm creating some cool things, I need to be like, heck yeah, like that's amazing. Thank you for wanting to do that, acknowledging it and just celebrating and acknowledging and not downplaying my achievements. Obviously, there is a flip side to this, because too much of anything is always not good or healthy. So, yeah, on the flip side of this way of thinking is when it gets to your ego, right? Like, then it's not about just celebrating your achievements, it's feeding into who you think you are and like that you deserve the attention or you deserve all these things, which I'm not saying I don't deserve it and that you don't deserve it, for sure. On the flip side of that way of thinking is like celebration isn't ego. It's connection to your work, and your work connects with others. That's really what you're wanting, and at least I am wanting when it comes to sharing my work and my achievements. It's the connection that I feel with others and that I hope to impact and make a difference by doing the work that I'm doing. So it's not about my ego and I just want to feel good all the time, because that's playing into a different area. So we got to celebrate. We have to celebrate our achievements. And I mean, if someone wants to hype you up, let them hype you up. But if not, at least acknowledging it, right? So what then is self-validation really? Which is kind of the next thing I wanted to chat about. Self-validation is the ability to recognize your own effort, truth, and value without waiting for someone else to reflect it back to you. Why does this even matter? Because without it, we are constantly chasing that validation in likes, feedback, approval of ourselves and our creative work and life in general. Which then means your creative output becomes limited and tied to the things outside of your control. And I think that's where that fear of being seen comes from, right? Because then we're just seeking to feel and be validated by others, by having likes, by being seen in a certain way and perceived in a certain way. So it kind of comes in two ways: being perceived in a negative way that you don't even want to show up, or being perceived in a certain way that you want to be seen in a certain way, and then you're looking for validation and chasing it in a certain way for you to continue to do more work, only to continually seek that out. So when it comes to self-validation and kind of taking away the things that we can't control, how others think about us and how others validate us, and being able to stand firm in why we think we need to recognize and acknowledge our own effort, the truth behind why we're doing what we're doing, and how valuable that is, I think is so important. And we don't talk about it enough. I don't hear a lot about this enough. Self-validation and being able to have the ability to recognize your own worth and your own value in your work and otherwise. I think we talk a lot about the other aspect of it, of wanting to chase validation in feedback and likes and seeking approval of other people. That's very commonly talked about. But on the flip side of that, it's like, okay, well, if we don't want that, how do we get it for ourselves? How do we achieve that for ourselves? And what does that look like? How does that look like for each individual in our areas? And I think that kind of ties in to what I just was talking about in the beginning, which is, what do we do instead? Okay, we celebrate. We celebrate our achievements. Like I should have done when my manager asked to share. Like, I celebrate that. Thank you. Thank you acknowledging it. Yeah, you're right. Like, this is a lot of effort. This is what it's about. This is what I'm doing, why I'm doing what I'm doing. Thank you for recognizing that. Cool, but I didn't need to be recognized. That's just like, that's on them. Like, she wanted to share that with me and wanted to share it with others. Amazing. But I need to recognize why. It's because what I'm doing is my truth, is my value. Me having this podcast is something that I want to celebrate. Not because she wants to celebrate for me, because I want to celebrate it because it's important and it's valuable to me. And I don't mean celebrate like a party. I mean, unless you want to, like, that's super cool. I mean more so like, look at something that you've made and let it move you. Feel it in your body. Don't just acknowledge it only mentally, but feel good. Feel it in your body. Feel proud and happy at the work that you've done, whether you've put it out in the world or not. I think feeling it in your body and being so excited or just energized and pumped about the things that you did or are doing is how you can, in one way, show that you're celebrating and acknowledging and having self-validation. Also, letting the moment or accomplishment land truly before you move on to the next thing. This is something that I'm working on. And I think in the past has been pretty difficult for me. I'm someone that very much lives in future world and all the things that I want to do and see and experience and desire to work towards, that as soon as I'm done something or I'm in the middle of something, I think that's what's really good about the podcast is it's continual. It's not something that is a project that starts and ends in one point. This is something that I feel I am going to be doing for a very long time. And I think because of that, I can continually talk about it and celebrate it and acknowledge it. And it's really helping me work through this part. But with other things that I've done in the past, they have been a little bit more projects that have kind of a start and end time, or there's aspects of them that are like start and end. And I think because of that, I wouldn't let things land fully in my mind or in my body of like, yeah, you achieved this thing, before I was already on to, I have to go down my checklist and move on to the next task, because there's always stuff to do. Of course, those of you that know, that are creatives, you know, There's always work to be done. So if you're like me, you're constantly thinking about the next things or how you're going to find time or, your schedule or where you're going to fit this task or that one. And you're not really acknowledging the things or the place that you've come from and the things that you've achieved and accomplished not that long ago. And I think that is, it's kind of tragic. Like we really do need to celebrate those things and take a moment and take the time to acknowledge the work that we've done, even if it's small, even if it's minor, because you're only going to be able to get that time and that moment to celebrate it and feel it and let it move you, like I said, at that time. Once you move past it and once it's kind of like gone quite a long ways forward, you're not going to go back and reflect on that specific little time if you didn't acknowledge it already. It's just going to pass by and it's going to continue. But I think that is also a build-up. Like you acknowledging your work and your effort is only continuing to give you more self-validation and relying on yourself to recognize and have the ability to recognize your work and your effort and not seeking out that external validation. So these are ways to do that, of course. That's what I'm saying. Another way is saying it out loud, saying that you're proud of what you've worked on when you're telling other people or you're talking to your friends or family. I also don't do this as often, but I do try to say it when I remember. I do intentionally try to talk about what I'm doing in a positive way, that I say I'm proud or that I'm excited. Like the different words that I'm using, I'm trying to use intentionally to kind of help me be acknowledging my work, and even if it's small. And I think that it definitely helps. It's changed the way that I'm approaching my work and how I feel more aligned with what I'm doing. So I think that that's a really good way to kind of trickle in your celebrating and your acknowledging of your accomplishments. I think also creating without needing an applause, which I think we know that already. And if nobody's there and you're doing this on your own, sometimes it's a little bit hard to feel like, okay, is anyone listening? Is anyone acknowledging my work? And that's a hard pill to swallow. I get that. I think if you can do these other little things, you can get to a point where you're not needing an applause for the work that you're doing, because you are validating it, because for you it's important and you already know why you're doing it, why it feels good. You're already sharing it with other people, whether or not, like for instance, this podcast, like it's a baby podcast. It's still new. I'm not getting like 100,000 of views, like I get it. I'm in a place where I'm still new. I'm exploring my voice. I'm exploring these topics, and if it reaches certain people and it's like impacting them, that's if it's doing it for one person, I'm grateful. I'm grateful for that. If it can even impact one person, it's already impacting me. So that's one person. But I mean, besides me, if it can impact one other person, I'm just so grateful for that, because that's why I'm doing it as well. Not just for me, but for you. But I don't need to have the likes, the applause, and the validation. Of course, it's nice and it feels good for sure. That's a boost to my ego and to my work, and kind of solidifying why I'm doing what I'm doing. But I don't need it. I don't need that to keep coming back to this work. I don't need it to feel good and to acknowledge why I'm doing what I'm doing, because that part is already solid. And it's not for the likes. I think, and I feel very confident, and I'm going to manifest that it is going to become popular and that it is going to be a big podcast. But right now I get that it's not that, and that's okay. And that's I don't need it to be that right now. Right now, I need it to be what it is right now. Just being present in what it is, in where I am, and how I'm sharing. And that in itself is a celebration because that's acknowledging where I am and what I'm doing. And that is beautiful. And I think if you can get to a place where your work is validated by your actions and why you want to do it first and foremost, then getting the applause, getting the attention and the likes and all that stuff is going to feel good, but not in a way that you have to. It'll be in a way that you feel good because it's nice to be acknowledged. I think if you want creativity to last and to have it matter to you first, being able to give yourself the validation and to celebrate your creative work and actually allowing yourself to receive it is huge. And it will change the way that you show up and how to have the ability to become your own cheerleader and to keep pursuing your dreams and creative goals. I was chatting with a local artist here. A mutual friend introduced us, and it was very, very serendipitous, very unexpected, I would say. And I met up with her and we just clicked. We had so much in common, and I feel like we're on a very similar journey and path. I haven't met a lot of new people, and this was such a inspiring and beautiful conversation and beautiful time, sharing about our own work and our journeys and kind of how we've come to be in the places that we are right now, doing what we're doing. Just super cool overall. I was bringing up the way that I think and how I tackle, and tackle is kind of a serious word, but I would say more approach is probably a better word, how I approach my work. And I have manifested the way that I am doing the work that I'm doing now. And at the time, I didn't realize what or how I was actually visualizing this thing. So let me backtrack. Let me kind of explain what I mean. So a few years ago, like kind of during the time I was talking about doing this podcast and how I had this idea and I was telling people about it, and eventually I'd love to have different artists and creatives come on the podcast and talk about their journeys and stuff. So these are things that I was sharing with people, family, friends, like literally anyone who would listen. I was telling different people how I would love to be able to have and work in a way that I could have multiple creative projects on the go at once. So I was thinking, okay, at the time I was doing pottery. So I'm like, yeah, I want to have pottery be something that I'm doing, a creative project that I'm doing. I'm creating and producing work for that. I wanted to have the podcast, which I was like talking about and really excited about this concept and how I wanted that to be something. And then I think at the time I was also thinking about maybe starting either something with jewelry or like something else. And then I wanted to maybe do some digital work. And my idea was, okay, I just want to be able to do kind of what I was talking about last week. I want to achieve so much, and I want to pursue so many things just because I'm so curious and just excited for life and to absorb as much as I can out of life. And I think because of that, I desire to be creative and be creating in many facets of my life, which is kind of why I was talking about being a multi-passionate, a multi-potentialite. I see potential in so many things, and I want to be pursuing so many different things, and there's only so much time. So I'm like, how can I maximize that? And my idea of being able to do that was by thinking to be able to have multiple projects on the go and be working on multiple things at once. I didn't actually think about logistically how that would play out and how that would show up in my life and how I would even do that. That didn't even cross my mind at the time because I wasn't there yet. And now, being in the place that I am, and not even realizing it, I have and am living this life, having multiple projects and things that I'm working on at the same time. So currently, aside from my 9 to 5 job, I have this podcast that I'm working on and put out a new episode weekly. I have my YouTube channel, which I'm trying to put out episodes. Wow. I'm trying to put out videos every month, once a month. I would love to do more, but just right now the capacity and time constraints is a little bit much, again, because I'm doing so much. So once a month seems feasible. I have another project on the go. I'm creating this tool that I'll be sharing about in a little bit for other creatives and artists. And I'm really excited to be putting this work and this project together. Those are just, I guess, my top projects that are that I'm working on right now. And underneath, I guess it's kind of like a tier. Underneath those projects, I'm putting like a trip together for myself, and everything's kind of going into that funnel to be able to fund and to achieve this dream that I've had to travel. I have actually manifested in my life to be this person that is working on multiple projects at once without really knowing it, and that I am pursuing them all at the same time. And when I was having this conversation with my new friend, she was like, how are you maintaining to come back to these projects in different ways while also maintaining what it is that you're pursuing, like the goal itself and then the actual tasks within each aspect of each project? And I was like, that's such a good question, because obviously this type of thinking and this type of way of working is not going to work for a lot of people. And most of the people that I've shared that I'm doing this, they're like, that sounds very intense. And I am and can be an intense person sometimes in the way that I more so pursue my things. I am very intentional and very driven to pursue what I want to pursue. But I understand this is not most people. Like most people, it's too much. Trying to do this is too much. But for me, it's not. For me, it works. And I hadn't really realized how I was doing it until I got to a point that I was like, wait a minute. I have been, at different points, have been getting to aspects of this journey and process. Like, because once I started the podcast, this has kind of all solidified as a lifestyle, I would say. This is all solidified as a lifestyle. And the way that I'm living my life is working on multiple projects at once, aside from my job and my relationships and my personal life and health and things like that. So I am managing a lot of things in my life right now. And once the podcast started, it was like this shift happened and all these things just started kind of happening and aligning in themselves. But within that time, there have been little areas that I have felt like, how the fuck am I doing this? How am I doing this? How is this working? Is it working? Like, I was just very much questioning my ability to do it. And because I guess also not having anybody else that I know personally that is working at this capacity, I was really questioning my my mind and my ability to do what I'm doing. Like, is this quote unquote normal? Is this actually sustainable for me? Am I just driving myself into the ground by trying to push all these things, even though I wasn't doing it in a way that it felt like an obligation? I was doing it in a way that just felt natural enough to a point that I'm like, oh, wait, I kind of feel like I'm burning out. Then I would step back a little bit and like take time and take breaks and things like that. And I just think organically it has worked for me. And what I was explaining to my new friend was this analogy, because I was also like trying to do some research, like are there any other artists or creatives that work in this way that can kind of give me a glimpse into this potentially the way that I'm working, potentially being successful in the way that you can, I don't even know how you would view success really, or what I actually deem to be successful, but more so just success in my ability to continue to come back to the work and move forward in them and not feel stuck or that I don't know what I'm doing when, kind of thing. The artist that came up was Leonardo da Vinci. And the reason that I wanted to share this is because if there are those of you that are listening to this podcast and you are like me, you do have many interests, many passions, you're a multi-potentialite, however you want to call it, and you are also struggling maybe to work in a linear way, or what is deemed to be kind of the way that most people work is very linearly, like you start this part of the project and then you finish the project and then you move on to the next part. You start that part of the project and then you finish that part of the project until you kind of are finishing the entire project that you're working on, and then you move on to another aspect of the project or another project altogether. So that is a very linear way to like think and to work, which most people do, and most even companies and organizations like move and work in this manner. So when I was looking it up, and Leonardo da Vinci was the person that came first as a creative artist who definitely did not work linearly. I was so fascinated and was sharing this with my new friend. What I learned was that this amazing man would work on projects based on his interest or desire at the time. And then he would drop projects. He would drop projects if they no longer were aligning, or maybe his attention shifted, and maybe by working on something, it would trigger a different idea or inspire a different concept for another project. He would either start a whole other project and leave the other one, or maybe he'd go back to a different project that he had originally started and was kind of in the middle of, and by working on something else, it inspired him to try something else on the previous project. So he'd go back and continue work on that project, and so on and so forth. So he'd continue to pivot within his work, within his creative projects, just move about them based on where he was at mentally, probably energetically as well, and where he was feeling inspired to work. And because he had many different mediums, he was definitely like an innovator. He was an ideas person and also an artist. So I feel very much aligned with kind of the way that he thought, in the sense like I feel like I come up with ideas very quickly. I have a lot of ideas, and that aspect of my mind is very much alive and like continues to inspire me all the time. I get new ideas all the time. I can't always pursue all of them, but I tend to, even when I'm working on something, if I have an idea and I'm in the middle of like, say, writing my points for the podcast and I come up with another idea, I try to pursue that idea and either writing it down, like getting it all down, doing a little bit of research, and like kind of getting a little glimpse into what that idea could be. And then as soon as I get to a point that I'm like, okay, it's good, it's as far as it's going to go at this time, that I have the capacity to like pursue it, I'll come back to it later, but at least I know that it's written down, it's there. I'm not, because that idea will leave, right? Like once it's gone, it's gone. Like actually, my friend, she mentioned like an idea's grave, or what was the term she used? I think idea's grave or idea rot, where if you don't pursue it, it rots, it goes away, and you no longer have that idea anymore. It won't come back again. I mean, you hope that it will, but a lot of the times it doesn't. So I tend to try and write it down, and then I can always come back to it later. And then I can come back, once that's done, I can come back to like writing my outline for the podcast. And I was explaining and expressing this to her, and like how Leonardo da Vinci like did that, and even other artists and creatives would tell him like, why are you not finishing these projects? Like you have all these, and even when he died, there were all these projects like half done because he didn't work in a linear way. He was working in a way, I don't even know what you would call this. He is working in a way that's like very much, I guess to me, appears like a web. So everything's kind of connected because you're in the middle of the web. But from you come all these ideas and these concepts, and they're interconnected by other parts of you, other ideas or other concepts. And I think that it really did validate for me that you can be successful and continue to produce work consistently, because I have been doing it. And I think that if you are someone like me, I think it is 100% possible. It's just being able to manage your time and find a system that works for you to continue to come back to your work. And that the way that I do it is I'm just able to like manage where I'm at in each aspect of the project, and then I have it in a certain place that I can continue to be like, okay, now this project, I need to do this, and this, and I have tasks and a list for that. I love lists. And then if I'm done working on that, or I feel like I'm tired of working on this part of the project today, then I'll move on to another part of another project. And I'm like, okay, these are the things I can do on this project. And then I do have a master to-do list, but anyways, that's all logistical. But I have a system that works for me and how I can keep coming back, and that's how I manage to do what I'm doing. I know that that's not everybody, that's not common, but for those of you that feel like you're like, I need to find a way to be able to do all these things that I want to do, there is a way. There is a way, and it is something that exists and other creatives have done before. And it was just so cool to be able to share that aspect of another very famous artist with my friend, and for her to feel seen and validated in the way that maybe she didn't realize she could work and do many different things at the same time, that there is not one way to produce work or to show up in your projects, in your creative work, that you are able to pivot and change and continually try new things to be able to come back to your work. And yeah, I'm excited that this has worked so far and that I've manifested this, and it is very much a way that has made me feel good and has made me want to keep pursuing work in a way that isn't an obligation. It's fun and it's still new and exciting every time I come back to it in different aspects of the project. Obviously, there's always things that I'm like, oh, I prefer not to do this, but because I'm working in a way that is very fluid, there isn't a set schedule or anything like that. I just work with what feels good or what I need to accomplish in that day. And I try to maximize my time as in a short period of time. I think that that is so cool, and I want to validate other people on your journey if that is what you're trying to aspire to, or you kind of work in the same way and you're like, oh, now I have a picture of what that kind of looks like and a visual of that. Yeah, I just wanted to share that story because it did impact me when I was kind of looking for someone to validate the way that I was feeling and acknowledge my concerns of like my output of work. That it does exist, and I'm not the only one, and you're not the only one. And if you've been listening this whole month and you've been listening to kind of this arc of activation and clarity, and you're feeling like, yeah, I really want to get more serious about my creative work or get back to my creative work, and you're excited to do so and just trying to find a way of like, how can I do that? I want to remind you that I did create something to help with exactly that. I have a tool that you can actually use to restart your creative process anytime you lose steam, anytime you feel lost or you've kind of fallen off the wagon, let's say, or fallen off that creative project, or you've had to step away from, then get ready because I'm launching a mini course, and I'm just so excited to be sharing this with you. I just mentioned it like a little bit last week, but it's a mid-year reset, a reclaiming, a step-by-step guide to help you find your way back into your flow and everything that might have felt off, that you might have been hesitant about. And I'm just so excited to be sharing this tool because I don't think there's really anything out there like this that I have found. It's because it's not just a productivity thing. It really is meant to bring you back to your work. It doesn't matter where you are on your journey of your work, or whether you're beginning, whether you've already started and you kind of need to come back and you're just like you're wanting to come back. It's meant to find you where you are and giving you the tools and the steps to start taking action and moving forward again, even though you might have been feeling stuck. So I'm going to be sharing more about it next week. If you want, just stay in the loop and you can check the show notes for all the links. I'm so excited to be, I'm going to keep saying it, but I'm just like so excited to be sharing this with you all. Go celebrate something that you made this week, because we need to be celebrating ourselves and acknowledging and claiming, appreciating the work and the accomplishments that we're doing. I hope that you feel encouraged today and validated in yourself. But if you need some cheerleading, if you need someone to hype you up, you are amazing. The work that you're doing is so meaningful. The person that you're becoming is blooming. Keep going. Keep trusting yourself. Keep dreaming big. Wherever you are, whatever time it is, have such an amazing, awesome day. We'll see you next Monday. And as always, keep creating. Bye.